probably never imagine that your children are going to use drugs or alcohol. Okay. Because it's just not something you plan to occur. And then when it does occur, it usually occurs slowly. And as a parent, you usually believe that you can handle it because when they start using drugs and alcohol, like at 14 or 15, you've had 14 or 15 years to control your child, where basically you tell them what to do and they do it. It's as simple as that. And it's a really hard transition to go from total control of your child to realizing that you actually have very little control of your child. And that is a very difficult thing for a parent to understand. When my children started using drugs and alcohol, I believed that I could take care of it. I took them to counselors. I punished them. I gave them parameters. I restricted their behavior. I did all what I believe is the normal thing that most parents do.
Right. And I would assume that those things would work to some degree and may in fact do work.
They probably didn't work, but the parent, I believed it was working. Okay. The other thing that's a real hard concept to get unless you're in recovery. And this is not a criticism of my children because I think this is a classic thing. And that is that most of what your children are telling you relating to drugs and alcohol is not true. But as a parent, you're used to your children being totally honest with you all the time.
Right.
And at some point, you realize nothing they've told you is true. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't believe it when they say it, but sometimes we know it's not. I just know it's not true. So you put those things together, and then at some point, either sooner or later, it gets to a degree where you realize what I've been doing is not working. It's getting worse.
Imagine too that there's a point where you think that what they're doing is just like the rite of passage or just what every other 14-year-old is doing.
That's true. I can't tell you how many times my son told me it's just marijuana. Everybody does it. It's not a gateway drug. Don't worry about it. I got this. It's just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And as a parent, you want to minimize it. You're busy with your world, making money at your job, whatever it is. And your child goes to school all day. There comes a point where you panic and you discover whatever it is. Your child is arrested. Your child is unconscious or missing. And you think, oh my God, this isn't working. Okay, well, who do I call?
This is no longer a small thing. It's no longer experimentation.
This is no longer something that I
Right.
could handle.
Right.
It was like, what do I do?
And I think one of the most dangerous beliefs that parents can have is that something would never happen to their child. Like, well, that just won't happen in my family. We're a spiritual family. We did Cub Scouts, whatever, we played soccer. We eat dinner at the table together as a family.
Right.
Each parent sort of has a checklist of activities they're going to do or things they're going to do that would somehow prevent their child from ever having painful life experiences. And so part of the denial is that the red flags will be very clearly present, but the parent has a belief system that it just couldn't be true.
Right.
And so right before they come to us, they really just like get hit by a freight train where so many things that they believed that protected them in some ways, all of a sudden they're unmasked. Everyone is in a really unsettled, fearful place. The kid, for the most part, is being forced into recovery by their parent. That's one of the hallmarks of adolescent recovery that's different from adult recovery is not all adults, but many adults choose the path of recovery based on their life circumstances. But when you're looking at young people, many young people feel more forced into recovery by their adult parents.
Right.
And so just in terms of what we have to do to attract them into recovery or keep them engaged in recovery is really different. So those are some of the things that I see during parent tours in particular is, the parents sort of becoming unblind to the fact that this is really what's happening in their family and just what a difficult pill that is to swallow. And then the anger and resentment happening and the finger pointing and the blaming that still exists when they first come to us. And then as they spend a little time with us, then we get to see some of the transformation happen in the family where the parent begins to let go of things they can't control anyway. So they're less resentful as a parent. And the kid starts taking responsibility for a lot of their choices and they act a little less entitled. Entitlement's a huge issue that we deal with in adolescent recovery for sure. And everyone begins to do their own work and take care of their own person and develop their own soul. And then that's when really magical things
That's
start
awesome.
happening.
Right. So families come in with the checklist of my family has power steering and anti brakes and, I've got a warranty. And so on the surface, it doesn't look like some families deserve or sort of fit the bill. And that happens with individuals too. Like I can't be an alcoholic. I still work. Right. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Well, and let's also, I mean, Mitchell alluded to this. Not only do parents sometimes, kind of blame themselves, like, well, if my child's really involved in drugs, I mean, they begin to really shame themselves. But then society also shames parents pretty heavily. Your kid gets arrested, and all of a sudden the finger's pointed at you. Why didn't you do this? And then all of a sudden we begin kind of turning on each other instead of being a community that supports or a community of parents. It's like, wow, this could happen to any of us. You're the one who's in it. Let's
Right.
rally around you.
Mhm.
That idea of no one brings you a casserole when you put your kid in residential treatment, but wouldn't that be nice? As a parent like Mitchell has to make this really difficult decision to drop off and leave his son in the care of someone else in residential treatment, and then comes home and is part of a community or society that doesn't understand.
When I came out of recovery, I didn't get my phone for, let's say, about like a month, like 2 months. But when I did get my phone, the only person that hit me up, as we say, was my drug dealer. So that's always fun. No one really asked where I was or, hey, where'd you go? Want to hang out? Just, hey, do you want to buy drugs? Was pretty much my response or what I got. I didn't feel like I had a supportive group of friends.
Right. That opened your eyes to like what was really going on in your group. Right.
Yeah, because they just encouraged the behavior. They thought it was like, oh, dude, look at this guy. He can do crazy things, sneak out and do whatever he wants. I think even in my mind, I felt very alone just every night because like I would have to play the role of a son, like a good son, and then the role of my drug addiction. At the same time, I had to like balance between those.
Are you talking about before you got sober?
Yeah, before I
Right. It's like the double life that people
Yeah.
lead. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And,
All right. So like tell your story.
oh, my story?
Yeah.
It's a lot like what my dad said, but it's great hearing.
So you actually came home and found your son glazed over?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I love to hear when my dad tells my story. It's weird hearing it from a parent. But I think somewhere between discovering myself and aging is when I realized I had a drug addiction problem. But I never wanted to say that because I thought I was living the rap song that everyone's listening to. I was the rock star people were telling me I could have been. I was living the celebrity life as a 14-year-old, and I was getting popular for it. But it was lonely and fun, very fun, but very dangerous. I can't. I think I've called my dad maybe like twice, and said, "Hey, Dad, I don't know what to do. Like, I need help, like now." And he was like, should we pump your stomach? What should we do?" And looking back on those like moments were like very sobering. There's a small second where like I sobered up and I was like, "Oh shit, my dad's looking at me. Um, he shouldn't be looking at me like this." Um, it's rough because I blamed myself for bringing my little sister into this. Um, she would like look at me and be like, "That's my older brother. Let me follow him down this path."
the fact that you didn't relapse, you're early in recovery. Most relapses happen early on. And that you accepted help again is just amazing, dude. It really is. Like, I
Not
can't
even
even
just
tell you.
accepting it, but having that trust to be able to go to Sasha and say, "Hey, I need some help." And whether maybe that was a direct result of your dad kind of prompting it, or maybe you just came about it yourself, but doing that's an action that you took and that you can call your own.
I think I'm at a point where I can ask for help now.